So, today I wanted to have a discussion about something that's been irking me. I've been playing around with the Feudal Society Civic for a couple of sessions now, and I find that the Civic is very underwhelming. It's a really cool idea because, who does not want to have what is effectively Crusader Kings in space? The mechanics are kind of sort of there, except for the whole traits that affect ethics, or not so much traits that affect opinion modifiers, etc. So right now, let's take a look at what the Civic actually does. I've set up this game called the High Terran Empire, and basically what it does is it's the following. So the Civic, Feudal Society. This society is organized in a feudal manner, with a monarch whose rule relies on powerful vassals that govern their territories, with considerable autonomy. The effects of subject power on relations is reduced by 50%, so they are less inclined to revolt, and they can colonize outside of your own space, which on paper seems like a really cool idea. However, it does cause a whole slew of problems, and that has mainly to do with the map size. So the real issue here is that vassals, by the time you set up a vassal, you build up their territory, you build their infrastructure a little bit, you try to basically make sure that they can survive and thrive. By that time, all bordering empires will already have set up shop pretty much wherever you want them to expand to, especially considering the limited amount of planets that are available. So overall, the Feudal Society's Civic, whilst incredibly cool on paper, is not all that practical and kind of a complete waste, and it does feel like it's just been thrown in there without a lot of thought. So, here's my suggestion of making the Feudal Societies a little bit more interesting. And for that, we have to go to a different game. I will go and load up my Tars Collective game. Let's pop into there. And in the Tars Collective, obviously, we have a gigantic empire. Let's quickly get past this contingency window. We have this gigantic empire over here, which is the Tars Collective. In this case, it's a robot empire, so it's not all completely applicable, but still the idea stands. And the idea is the following. Notice that we have all these sectors everywhere. We can go into the planetary sectors window and scroll past all the planets. We notice that we have all of these sectors with their own planets, with their own population, their own economy. So instead of having a feudal empire with vassals that can kind of independently operate, this is what I'm going to suggest. Moving all the autonomy bonuses as well as vassal strength modifiers, etc., and move them over towards sectors. Basically, make sectors a lot more independent, like mini vassals within your empire. The sectors themselves, the systems are technically within the game and will require a little bit of rework, to say the least. But basically, you could say a sector, once you've created it, let's just quickly, for shits and giggles, create a sector. I think we can still do one. So let's say we create a sector here over a turn and wreck. This becomes a new sector. Then we can go in here, and then we assign a leader. But inside of a leader, we can assign, say, a vassal overlord with its own lineage. So basically, if we go quickly back into the High Terran Empire, basically what it becomes is you have a king or a duke with its own lineage below your top level empire. And with that ruler, you can gradually over time have like ethics growth and stuff like that, and basically make their own little area of space completely independent. So this is the idea. So once a ruler hits its directly controlled systems cap, a new planet automatically becomes a sector or can be added to an existing sector for a relationship bonus to whoever is controlling that sector. Every sector has their own ruler and their own agenda, similar to what the democratic agenda has as of right now, which is incredibly useful because basically you can set a goal for that leader after a certain amount of years. Kind of similar to how Crusader Kings does ambitions. Every single sector has their own fleets and armies. Of course, the ability to colonize outside of their own area, which is the case over here. This empire, this vassal started over here and started expanding into here. The ability to go to war with other empires around it if it feels it can take control of it without any control impact from the overlord If they lose, then some sort of modifier needs to be involved in there. Obviously, you can't lose a territory. The ability to go to war between sectors, so you can have sectors that can fight each other at the same time whilst you are controlling, so that they can grow themselves internally if they feel that is necessary. So you kind of get that, like, that power struggle internally, which is really cool. Then once the Empire goes to war, all fleets from all sectors are being handed over towards the Overlord until the end of the war, when they all go home, or if they're all destroyed. Now, obviously, vassals, they'll still give a certain percentage of their fleet power to you. Their naval capacity will still increase. And also, you can play around a little bit with, say, factions, and make every single sector its own faction with their own little issues and goals. If they don't like you, if the happiness is negative, then there's a good chance that they may revolt and try to overthrow you or become their own empire. That's basically how I would adjust the current setup of Feudal Empires. Obviously, this would require a pretty immense amount of work, because vassals automatically kind of become new sectors rather than classic semi-independent vassal-like empires, and does add a bunch of additional systems that are required. Obviously, it's not Crusader Kings 2. You don't really have traits attached to every single character that then clashes with other traits, etc. But it's still a really interesting idea to take the concept of feudal empires to the next level. Will we see this? Well, I doubt we will. Maybe in a mod, if somebody decides to take this idea and run with it, go right ahead. There's no trademark on this, so go right ahead with that. But yeah, if you want to do something like this with a feudal-style empire, it's going to take a lot of rework and a lot of changes to sector styles and how they all work, and moving over a lot of the vassal mechanics over towards sectors, etc., which by itself is a significant overhaul of the Civic, and kind of a lot of work for what is effectively only a small slice of the Stellaris pie, so to speak. But it's still an interesting idea that may be followed up upon. So yeah, feudal societies, incredibly cool idea, but its current shape, not particularly practical. So quickly recap: all vassals are automatically sectors. All sectors are completely independent, can go to war with each other, and can colonize wherever they want, as long as it's within their own sector borders or outside of the Empire territory. Their own fleets, their own armies, ability to go to war, which I already mentioned, and being almost completely controlled by the overlords during war, and of course can rise up if they really want to. It would add a lot of very interesting internal struggle, which is something that I'm really, really curious about, to see whether or not it would happen, and would make the internal balance of an empire a lot more interesting, because right now it's relatively boring with only a uprising here and there every once in a while. Let me know down in the comments below if you agree with this, if you have any other ideas, or whether or not you're happy with the way feudal societies work as of right now. Of course, this is completely a high-level concept and an idea with a couple of criticisms towards the way some of the current in-game systems work, but I feel that there's a lot of stuff already within the game itself that will allow for something like this to happen. So maybe we'll see an update for this at some point in the future. Who knows? Anyway, this was my thoughts regarding feudal societies. Again, cool in concept, bad in execution. Well, not so much bad in execution, impractical in execution. And that all boils down because of the map size. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was interesting, and that you will now go and try out feudal societies for yourself for a little bit, see if you can have some fun with it, and see if you agree with some of these standpoints or not. If not, feedback is always appreciated below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves, and as always, each other.